Once again, a happy morning, children. Welcome to the second session of Unit 24, Environmental Science. So, before we go into the second session, can we have a small recap of what we have seen in part 1? The topics, whatever we have discussed in part 1, can anyone tell me? Do you have any idea about all the topics? So, the lesson name is Environmental Science. So we dealt with biogeochemical cycles, that is about biotic and abiotic factors, which includes the biogeochemical cycles are like which has water cycle, nitrogen cycle and carbon cycle, isn't it? So we have seen in brief all these three cycles in the session 1. About water cycle, the topics covered under water cycle are evaporation, sublimation, transpiration, condensation, precipitation, runoff, infiltration, percolation. Okay. Then nitrogen cycle, that is nitrogen fixation, nitrogen assimilation, ammonification, the process of decomposition, everything. Nitrification, denitrification. Then carbon cycle. So these are the topics we have seen in the session 1, and also about adaptations of plants, that is hydrophytes, xerophytes and mesophytes in brief we have seen. So today we are going to see about adaptations of plants we saw, isn't it? So now adaptations of animals. So in animals we are going to see two animals, that is one is bat and other one is earthworm. So first we see about bat. So animals can adapt themselves according to their habitat. Habitat means living place. So animals, living beings, as well as the animals, that is human as well as the animals, we can have the ability to adapt themselves. We can change our conditions, living styles, okay, according to our habitat. So if it is winter, summer, whenever the season changes, or we go abroad, wherever we go, we change ourselves according to the condition where we live. So even if it is temperature and light, these are the forms of energy which influence various stages, isn't it? That is, it includes the activities such as growth, metabolism, reproduction, movement, distribution and behavior. So animals develop special features or behavior patterns to escape from extreme conditions of temperature and light. So now we are going to see the adaptive features of bat and earthworm. So first of all we will see about the adaptations of bat. So bat falls under which group? Bat falls under which group? Bats are the only mammals. It falls under mammalian group. Bats falls under mammalian group. Mammals means, yes, milk producing animals, okay, milk feeding animals. So mammals, it comes under mammals which can fly. It is the only animal, only mammal that can fly. Okay, where do bats live? Bats live in caves, and apart from caves, bats also lives in trees, hollowed logs and rock crevices. So adaptations of bat in relation to their habitat are explained now, will be explained now. So first it is, we are going to see about its nocturnality. So what is nocturnality? Do you have any idea about that? Children, do you have any idea about the word nocturnality? What is nocturnality? So nocturnality means the animals which are active in night and being lazy in the daytime. That is, it doesn't face light. Okay, during night time the animals will be active, and during the daytime it will be taking rest in its habitat, particular place. So such type of animals falls under nocturnality. So bats are active at night. So this is a useful adaptation for them, as flight requires a lot of energy during daytime. Okay, so the thin black wing membrane, that is called as patagium. You can see the membrane here. So it is the wings of the bat is clearly visible here. It is called as patagium. It may cause excessive heat absorption during the day. So this is why the reason the bats are nocturnal. Okay, so this may lead to dehydration. That is why during daytime it takes rest and night it is active. Okay, so now I'll show you a picture of the nocturnal habitat of the bat. See how bats are nocturnal. So during daytime it will be in groups together in its living place. Okay, whereas in night period it will be keep on roaming searching for its food. Is that clear? So this is called as nocturnal. It will be moving in its particular place. Then the next feature is flight adaptation. So you can see in this picture how the bat moves its wings, okay, to fly. So this is the forelimbs and this is modified as serve wings. Okay, so tail supports and controls movement during flight, and here the muscles are well developed and achieve in beating of these wings. Highly powerful wings it has, and tendons of hind limbs provide a tight grasp when the animals are suspended upside down at rest. Okay, so this is the flight adaptation of bat. And then this is the picture showing you the hibernation of a bat. So what is hibernation? Hibernation is nothing but a state of inactivity in which the body temperature drops with a lowered metabolic rate during winter season. So this is how bats will be in its hibernating stage. Okay, the bats are warm-blooded animals, but unlike other mammals, they let their internal temperature reduce when they are resting. Okay, and they go to a state of decreased activity to conserve its energy. So they will be without any movement. They will be hanging in their particular habitat. Okay, whereas in the nocturnality you can see the movement of the bats, whereas in hibernation this state of inactivity doesn't move. It will be quietly sitting in its particular place. Okay, so inactivity stage is called as hibernation. And this is the next adaptation stage of bat. This is nothing but echolocation. You can see the red and orange waves that is moving towards its prey, bats prey. Okay, so bats use a remarkable high frequency system called echolocation. This is called as echolocation. The bats give out high frequency sounds, that is ultrasonic sounds, and these sounds are reflected back from its prey. A butterfly is given as a prey for the bat and perceived by the ear. So bats use these echoes to locate and identify the prey. Is that clear? So this is called as echolocation using high ultrasonic sounds. Okay, so this is the high remarkable frequency system of bat, echolocation. And next what we are going to see is the adaptation of earthworms. Okay, so it is commonly found in soil. Where do earthworms are found? It is commonly found in soil, isn't it? So feeding on live and dead organic matter. So earthworm plays a vital role in maintaining soil fertility. And you can see the body of the earthworm here. It is streamlined body, cylindrical, elongated and segmented body. So this helps them to live in narrow burrows underground and for easy penetration into the soil, and its skin which does not allow soil particles to stick to it. Okay, moist skin. It has a moist skin, helps in oxygenation of blood. And then this body is flexible, having cuticles, circular longitudinal muscles which help in movement and subsoil burrowing. So each segment on the lower surface of the body has a number of setae. On the lower surface of the body it has a segmented part which is called as setae, and they help the earthworm to move through the soil and provide anchor in the burrows. Okay, so we have covered three topics here. Streamlined body. Earthworm has a streamlined body, then its skin is mucus covered skin, burrowing. It has a segmented part at the lower part of the body which is setae. Okay. So here you have estivation. So this picture shows the estivation of the earthworm. That is during dry, the land becomes dry, earthworms become inactive and undergo a process called estivation, and this earthworm moves deeper into the soil. It secretes mucus and lowers their metabolic rate in order to reduce water loss. and this also remain dormant until conditions become favorable, and they come out of their burrow during rainy season. Okay, so what is estivation? When the soil becomes too hot or dry, earthworms become inactive and undergo a process called estivation. Okay, that clear, children? And next is nocturnality. Nocturnality is nothing but earthworms are sensitive to light. So it has no eyes but can sense light through light sensitive cells, that is photoreceptors, which is present in their skin. Okay, so photoreceptors are present in the earthworm's skin, and they react negatively to bright light, that is they are photophobic. So what is photophobic? Negativity. It shows negativity. It reacts negativity to bright light. It remains in its burrow during the day to avoid light. The last topic what we are going to see is water conservation. So we have seen so far adaptations of bat and adaptations of earthworm, isn't it? So now we will see what is water conservation. What is conservation means? Saving. Okay, so water conservation, preserving, is the preservation, control and management of water resources, and it is also includes activities to protect the hydrosphere and to meet the current and future human demand. So now we will see the importance of water conservation. Very important question. Importance of water conservation, it will be asked in 4 marks. Important question, children. All the 4 points. Conservation. Importance of water conservation creates more efficient use of the water resources. It ensures that we have enough usable water. Helps in decreasing water pollution. It helps in increasing energy saving. So this is the importance for conserving the water. If we conserve water, it creates more efficient use of the water resources, and it will make us sure that we have enough usable water, and it will helps increasing, that is decreasing water pollution, helps in increasing energy saving. So what are the measures that we take to conserve the water? So industrial conservation, agricultural conservation, domestic conservation. These are the 3 types of conservations. Okay, so what is industrial conservation or water conservation means? That can be taken by industries or using dry cooling systems. If water is used as cooling agent, reusing the water for irrigation or other purposes. So these are the 2 points given under industrial conservation. Then we have agricultural conservation. So this is often lost due to leaks in canals, runoff and evaporation. So what are the methods that he used here is using lined or covered canals that reduce loss of water and evaporation, using improved techniques such as sprinklers and drip irrigation, then encouraging the development of crops that require less water and drought resistant, then mulching of soil in vegetable cultivation and in horticulture. Okay, then we will see domestic cultivation. Domestic conservation. All of us have the responsibility. This is also an important important question may come under 4 mark or even in 7 mark. So we can conserve water by the following activities. Domestic conservation, so using a bucket of water to take bath than taking shower, using low flow taps, using recycled water for lawns, then repairing the leak in the taps, recycling or reusing water wherever it is possible. So what are the strategies adapted to conserve this water? Rainwater harvesting. These are all the points that we know generally. The improved irrigation techniques, active use of traditional water harvesting structures, minimizing domestic water consumption, awareness on water conservation, construction of farm ponds, then recycling of water. So what are farm ponds? So this is the picture given here. Farm ponds. A farm pond is nothing. It is used as one of the strategies to support water conservation. Much of the rainfall runs off the ground, isn't it? During rain season, it doesn't save the water, so everything go and mixes with the ocean unwantedly, and the runoff not only causes loss of water but also washes away the soil fertility, precious topsoil. So farm ponds help the farmers to store water and to use it for irrigation. So what are the advantages of having this farm ponds? What are the advantages? So the advantages are nothing but they provide water to growing crops without waiting for the rainfall, because we are saving the water, so you can take and use the water without waiting for the rainfall. Then they provide water for irrigation when there is no rain, reduce soil erosion, recharge groundwater, improve drainage. Excavated soil can be used to enrich soil in fields and leveling lands, and they also promote fish rearing, and they provide water for domestic purposes and livestock. Okay, so next we are going to see water recycling. So what is water recycling? Apart from the rainwater harvesting, it is also one of the key strategies to conserve water, isn't it? So waste water for beneficial purposes such as agricultural and landscape irrigation, industrial process flushing in toilets, and groundwater recharge. So you can recycle all the wasted water. So what are the methods that comes under this water recycling, wastewater recycling? Treatment involves the following steps, that is primary treatment, secondary treatment, and tertiary treatment. What are the treatments that involve here? Primary, secondary, and tertiary treatment. So see, the inlet, that is sewage water, and primary treatment, that is physical. What are the process involved here? Sedimentation, that is heavy solids. Okay, so this primary treatment, in the wastewater, this heavy solids will be cleaned up, then flotation, that is oil, grease, lighter solids, these all will be filtered. Okay, so what are the things that is filtered in the primary treatment? Sedimentation, physical, that is we pick up everything, heavy solids, that is plastic or stones or whatever that is heavy, visible to us in a larger size. So we remove everything, okay, physically, that is flotation, floating, oil, grease, lighter solids, and everything is filtered, and then it is passed to the secondary treatment, that is biological treatment. Secondary treatment is biological treatment. So biological oxidation, that is biodegradable dissolved organic matters are removed here, microbes are removed here, and sedimentation, biological solids is sedimented, and again it is filtered. Then passed to the tertiary treatment, that is physiochemical. So nitrogen, phosphorus, suspended solids, heavy metals, these are all cleaned up in the tertiary treatment. And disinfection, that is chlorination, 5 to 15 milligrams per liter is used, chlorinated water, that is why because waters are chlorinated to clean all the microbes finally. Okay, after removing all the microbes and then solid particles, this nitrogen, phosphorus, suspended solids, and heavy materials from the water, finally chlorinated water disinfection is added, and then it is sent out, that is outlet as a recycled water. Okay, we will see a picture of this wastewater recycling steps. So this is the picture. You have 3 steps here: primary, secondary, and tertiary. So wastewater, sand and grit is removed from the first primary section. Clarification, solid judges are stored down. Then again liquid aeration, that is fully heavy air is passed through that, and that is the secondary part section. Clarification is done there. Sludge is sent down, solid disposals, then disinfection, that is chlorination is done there. Chlorine, that is Cl2, or ultraviolet light, UV radiations are done. The coarse debris and solid disposals are stayed down. Okay, then later on from the tertiary, it is disinfected, chlorinated water are let out. Okay, so nutrient removal is done there. That is what it is given here as effluent. So this is the picture for wastewater recycling. These are the 3 stages, primary, secondary, and tertiary stage. So what are the uses of this recycled water? So for what purpose we can use this recycled water? Except drinking. For what purposes this recycled water is used? So this can be used for agriculture purpose, that is for irrigation, then landscape, public parks, cooling water for power plants, then power plants and oil refineries, toilet flushing, dust control, construction activities. This is also an important question. What are the uses of recycled water? Okay, then we will see very important topic, IUCN. So what is IUCN? What is IUCN? International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources. What is IUCN? International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources. So it is an international organization working in the field of nature conservation and sustainable use of natural resources. It is the global authority on the status of the natural world and measures needed to safeguard it. So what is the vision of this IUCN? What is the vision of the IUCN? It is a just world that values and conserve nature. Its vision is to conserve the nature. Okay, the vision of IUCN is just a world that values and conserve nature. What is mission of IUCN? It is to influence, encourage and assist societies throughout the world to conserve the integrity, diversity of nature, and also the use of natural resources which is equitable and ecologically sustainable. Okay, so it is an organization best known to the wider public for compiling and publishing the IUCN Red List threatened species. This is the most important work done by this resource. Okay, so this will create a red list category which will indicate that extinct species, extinct in the wild, and critically endangered. You have a picture based on that. Vulnerable, it is nearly threatened or least concern, or data is deficient or not evaluated. So this is called as a red list categories. Okay, so which a diverse country. It is a diverse country with only 2.4% of world's land area, accounts for 7 to 8% of all recorded species. Okay, it includes 45,000 species of plants and 91,000 of animals. So all this list will be taken by this IUCN resources, and this is how they create the red list. Okay, the red list categories of IUCN. This is how they categorize the species. Okay, so extinct in the world, then critically endangered, vulnerable, NT, that is near threatened, least concern, data deficient, not evaluated. So this is the red list categories of IUCN. And where are these things are basically identified as? It is basically identified in Himalayas, then in Western Ghats. It is given here, Himalayas, Western Ghats, Northeast, then in Nicobar Islands. Okay, so India becomes state member of IUCN in 1969 through Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. So by then the lesson gets over. So IUCN was founded on 5th October 1948 at Gland in Switzerland. And see the picture here, CR, Himalayan brown red belt. CR means critically endangered. Okay, CR means critically endangered. And this is EN, a red panda. So what is EN? Endangered. EN means endangered species. That is, it is in the stage of extinction. Okay, it is in the stage of extinction. So after that you have glossaries and points to remember, where you can see all the meanings for the important scientific words. And now we will see the textbook exercises. We'll have a short glance of all the textbook exercises. PDFs will be uploaded soon. We will discuss the answers now. So choose the correct answer. All the factors of biosphere which affect the ability of organisms to survive and reproduce are called as all factors of biosphere. When it comes under biosphere and the to all organisms, okay, it is biotic factors. What is the answer? Biotic factor. Ice sheet from the north and south poles and ice caps on the mountains get converted into water vapor through the process of dash. So which process this is made by? Sublimation. Atmospheric carbon dioxide enters into the plants through the process of dash. Through the process of photosynthesis. Increased amount of dash in the atmosphere results in greenhouse effect and global warming. Carbon dioxide. Okay, match the following. Nitrosomonas. What is the answer? Nitrosomonas. It is nitrification. Nitrosomonas microorganism. The role played in nitrification. Then Acetobacter. Nitrogen fixation. Pseudomonas species. Denitrification. Putrefying bacteria. Ammonification. Okay. Then true or false? Nitrogen is a greenhouse gas. True or false? False, because it is not nitrogen, it is CO2, carbon dioxide. Okay. Poorly developed root is an adaptation of mesophytes. False, yes, because it is not mesophytes, it is hydrophytes. Okay. Bats are the only mammals that can fly. Yes, true. Then fourth one. Earthworms use the remarkable high frequency system called echoes. Earthworms. False. Yes, it is not earthworm, it is bat. Then estivation is adaptation to overcome cold condition. True or false? False. It is not due to cold condition, dry condition. Okay. Estivation is a process taken under dry condition. So in the classwork, I want you all to write in answer briefly. You have 8 questions here. Third question, fourth question. Third question, fourth question, sixth question, seventh and eighth. Third, fourth, sixth, seventh and eighth. These 5 answers write in your classwork. Then answer in detail. You have 5 questions. I want you all to write third and fifth. Okay. List out the adaptations of xerophytes and what is water recycling. Explain the conventional wastewater recycling treatment. Okay. So hope you all have enjoyed the lesson, listening keenly. We will meet with the next lesson from physics. Okay children, thank you. Have a good day.